Lieutenant Geordie LaForge served as an ensign under Captain Zimbada. Inspector Lestrade is in a deuce of a dilemma. And Data and Data and Geordie can be reached at 221B Baker Street, not to be confused with the great song by Jerry Rafferty. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 3, Elementary Dear Data, written by Brian Allen Lane, based upon certain characters by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, directed by Robert Bowman. This was December 5th, 1988. Where were you? Also, we would like to give you a special thanks to Eric James and Dave Mattingly for sponsoring this episode. Thank you very much, Eric James and Dave Mattingly. They chose this episode above all. What do you think, Cirroc? How are you?
I think very good episode to choose. And Dave, I like your brother Don. He was always my favorite, one of my favorite swingers on the Yankees.
Yeah, favorite Yankee.
One of them. He was up there. I really
Coming from a
like
Dodger
him.
fan, that's pretty good.
I like Dave Winfield too. I just like certain strides. I thought Ken Griffey Jr. had the best swing in baseball, but yeah, but I did like Dave Winfield's wide stance. I liked Kirby Puckett's kind of like tucked in
the Twins, the legendary Twins player, Kirby Puckett.
Yeah, so I used to watch people's batting stances. Mm-hmm. So that's all. Don Mattingly had a nice one.
And Eric James, we're a fan of his brother LeBron, right? Let's
absolutely, absolutely, one of the greatest.
Yeah,
one of the greats. But yeah, this is a good episode. They obviously know how much this episode resonates with the fans and how good it is. I think this is really one of the better episodes I've seen so far of Next Generation.
What do you think, by the way, of Sherlock Holmes? Are you a Sherlock Holmes aficionado? Do you know a little bit of it? Did you read any of the books ever? What's your knowledge there?
Yeah, I don't really have any like extensive, knowledge on Sherlock Holmes. I have kind of the basic understanding about it. I wasn't big into it. I do like mysteries, a guy who watches Columbo, and it's one of those kinds of, looking for clues and solving mysteries. So I do like that. I just wasn't into the language of Sherlock Holmes, which is the same reason why I wasn't really that into Shakespeare, because I was turned off by the language. It was just not, appealing to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've never read a Sherlock Holmes book. I don't really know anything. All I know is that there's Sherlock Holmes and there's Watson. That's the extent of it. I don't even know if I knew who Moriarty was before The Next Generation. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. However, I will say that any books that were written, over 100 years ago that have such staying power that they are embedded in our, lexicon, where people say, I feel like I've heard slang like, oh, nice job, Sherlock, or no shit, Sherlock. That's what it is, right? Mm-hmm, so the fact that it has entered our lexicon and we all know who Sherlock Holmes is, even though we've never read it, we don't, whatever. I'm sure there must have been movies on it. I know that there's a TV show currently running called Elementary. I believe we have a favorite writer who writes on Elementary. Let me check to confirm that.
Yeah. I wasn't really big on it, but I am aware of it. It's just something that has been created that is basically a brand in itself, I never read any Sherlock Holmes stuff, but I'm familiar with some of it's elementary, my dear Watson, and those kinds of quotes that are made it around in circulation, But one thing I do say though, My critique of it is the language, but I think one of the things that I enjoyed about this episode was the language. So, um, as I've gotten older, my appreciation for different things have changed, and watching Data and Brent Spiner going through this character and playing it with this accent was one of the highlights for me of this episode.
I thought that our buddy Robert Hewitt Wolf worked on Elementary, the Sherlock Holmes TV show, so I'm just trying to confirm that.
Okay,
that's what I'm pretty sure. Let me just check.
No, that's the one with Lucy Liu.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he has written 16 episodes, and obviously he's probably a producer as well, as is usually. Yeah, he's an executive producer, all 113 episodes, and he's written himself 16 episodes. So shout out to him. I'll bet you he knows this Star Trek episode well, and I bet you his Sherlock Holmes knowledge is through the roof, because it's going to have to be. So huge shout out to our good friend, Mr. Robert Hewitt Wolf. We'll have to ask him if he likes this episode or how many times he's watched it. Mm-hmm.
It's got to be. And then he would recognize a lot of the things that they were probably referencing that's in the books. The snuff box from Lord Vanderbilt, whatever his name was.
That was nuts. Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund van Ormsteen.
I did not.
I'm butchering that, but I was like, but you know what it was? I didn't write it down. I'm like, no way am I writing that down. But I was like, I'll bet you right now, Cirroc, at some point, Cirroc's gonna be like, oh, I thought you wrote that down or something. Because sometimes I don't write something and you expect. So I'm like, I better go write it down. He's gonna call me out. He's gonna call me out.
I was expecting you to write it down, actually, because I just wrote the snuff box of, and then I put the scribble.
The Grand Negus.
Yeah.
The Beatles snuff box.
But it made me laugh, though, because it was one of those moments. And what made me laugh even more was thinking of Brent Spiner trying to memorize that line and being corrected when he doesn't. No, it's Lord Wilhelm.
His accent was his accent was pretty freaking good. We'll have to ask some native German speakers.
I thought it was great.
But it sounded pretty darn good. Good for him.
Yeah, his accent throughout this episode was great. And his going in and out of the accent was another thing that I thought was great. So he would be committed to the Sherlock Holmes accent, and then some point, Geordi would ask him something, and he would say, "No, I'm doing it because this is why." He would completely drop the accent,
kind of like Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, but on purpose. Shout out to Kevin Costner's in and out accent in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, that was a known debacle, I see.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one to have noticed that egregious accenting. Sorry, Kevin. He watches the show, so I'm just giving him a nice little ribbing. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of our biggest patron donors. Yeah, everybody at home, please be sure to go to patreon.com/the7th rule and join Kevin Costner in supporting this show. We'd really appreciate it. It starts as little as $1 per month, and it helps keep the lights on. It helps us write fresh new jokes, which we need. And please make sure you are liking this video, subscribing to our channel. Yeah. Give us a 5-star rating if you are listening in with your friends. And please make sure to click that share button and tell all of your pals about us. Now back to the show.
It's funny because you picked that image behind you where, the two of them are dressed up. And by the way, the costuming in this episode was great. Love the outfits. Love that Sherlock trench coat that Data was wearing. That style is obviously a very period coat and just takes you instantly back to the time. So does the fit and cut on Geordi's outfit that is behind you with the kind of derby hat that's on top.
Is that what that is, a derby hat?
It looks like a brown derby type of hat. Not on the one on Data, but the one on Jordy.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But um, the thing that I noticed when I was watching that part, I was kind of intrigued that he was able to walk down the streets of London in whatever year that is, with that visor on, and nobody called
Well,
that out.
and walking next to a pale, shiny face with yellow eyes. But that's the holodeck. The holodeck is made to have these kind of protocols where people don't really notice that. I think. I mean, it's kind of just goes by whatever the plot wants. Sometimes
Right.
they go like, "Why does Worf look like this?" But other times they just don't even. They're just like, "Whatever. Yeah, it's just a guy." So I don't know. But by the way, Worf looked cool when he was all dressed up.
Yeah.
And what was that? And Picard hit his cane, and his hat popped out. And I watched that like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, what am I watching here? Did they have like crazy technology 100 years ago where that was a thing that they did, or is that just a Star Trek edition? I don't know.
Well, it's like some old magic trick stuff to me. It looks like what the old magicians used to do when they pop their hat out and stuff, and do stuff like that. But I thought it was weird that Worf got all dressed up, and I really liked the scene because it was great when he was dressed up and Picard was dressed up. But then Riker says, you're going to be a big hit in London, and he's talking to Worf. And I was the way he said it just stood out to me. Like, what does he mean you're going to be a big hit in London? So when he said that, I was expecting Worf to actually deliver a big hit in London. Like, so I thought he would come through at some point and punch somebody at some point, right?
And be like, "Ow, Werewolf of London." Shout out to Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, our favorite human in the world that used to love to sing that song by Warren Zevon, a San Jose native like myself. But everybody give a shout out to Werewolves of London or Werewolf in London. Say that one time fast.
Say it once. So yeah, I was expecting to see him on the in the holodeck program, but he wasn't. That was the last shot of him when he was in the hallway about to get in. Yeah. So I'm like, was he standing by the entrance or something? I
wonder if Michael Dorn was like, why am I here today? You did this whole tailored fitting. You did all this stuff. I look real great. I said like one line, and then they go in and I don't appear. I wonder if he had a scene and they cut it out or something.
That's what I'm wondering. Did he that's why I'm saying it felt like something was cut out, because the "you're going to be a big hit in London" line was basically, to me, a foreshadow of something coming up with Worf in London, right? There's going to be a scene there where we get to see him being a big hit. And it felt like, why would you get him tailored up in the outfit, ready to go, and not even acknowledge that he's not going to be on the mission? Instead, like, "Hey, Worf, sorry, we're going to leave you behind. Sorry, you're not coming with us this time." And then, I got dressed up for nothing. That kind of a moment would have been funny to watch. So I was expecting to see him.
Yeah, that's true. He did, and there was the other part where that I thought maybe something got cut out or a character got cut out, because I thought Data as Sherlock said that Pulaski got carried away by 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
A taller person and a shorter person. And I was like, we never saw that second person. We never saw that. Maybe I completely misread that. Maybe he meant a taller person dragged away a shorter person, but I thought he said
no, 2 people.
2 people dragged her away. But we never saw that second person. We have no idea who it was. They never showed up. It had no bearing on the story. So it was very confusing, as if later on we saw the second person, or Worf incapacitates that second person, or Data does, or something, and then they just cut that scene out, or something. I don't know. Everybody in the live chat and in the comments below, please let us know what are we missing here? Who was that second person? Where did Worf go, all dressed up and nowhere to go? And what's your favorite Kevin Costner movie? Of course, that's the big pressing question. Shout out to Kevin Costner.
I'm going to say Untouchables for me.
I'm going to say
Really quickly.
Waterworld for me. I really liked.
No, really, Waterworld?
Yeah, I liked the concept of it, and I liked that everything just it was just cool to see the boats that they had. You know, like they were all kind of post-apocalyptic, and that always lends itself to a lot of creativity. I know there's like some weird events and conventions out in the desert that are like post-apocalyptic things. I forgot what they're called, but people can get really creative with that. And then Waterworld had that creativity. Also, there is, I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be the Waterworld show at Universal Studios here in LA. That was always fun. I think they replaced it with something else, but anyway, moving on from that.
Yeah, Waterworld's not on my list. Bodyguard would be the second place, probably.
Never saw it.
Houston. What?
I never saw it.
Oh my gosh!
I think
that was the must
not to get too far off track. I believe The Bodyguard, and I could be wrong. I think the only reason it did well was because of that phenomenal song. If you have a phenomenal song that everybody loves, and then you show them a trailer with that song blasting, you know, going through, people would be like, I gotta see this movie. I'm already crying, you know, but I don't know if it was good or not.
Yeah, it was good. It was Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
They were in love, and he was protecting her, and
wasn't he in The Postman too?
Yeah, we're getting real far away from it.
Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, he was.
Inspector Lestrade was there. He was the guy. He was there for just a second, and he said something. I don't know, but it was when Data does my favorite line, which is when he goes, Watson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty good. I mean, he's got some great, Brent Spiner is a great comedian. He's got great comedic chops, and he shows it off here and there as Data, you know, doing it. And when he pulled out his pipe and was like rubbing it against the book spines, very a creative move that I'm sure must have been a choice on his part. But then he says, you know, he does that tisk tisk, and he says, "Pray continue, Inspector." And the inspector brought in the guy that was hiding the picture in his jacket. That's who Inspector Lestrade was. Mm-hmm. And Inspector Lestrade said, he's having a real deuce of a dilemma. I don't know why. He's like, I'm having quite a deuce of a dilemma. Like, do you need to use the...
So drop that deuce.
Yeah, just go take care of it, bro. We'll be here when you get back. Don't torture yourself. It's not a dilemma. Just listen to your body. Listen to your body.
Who's Captain Zimbada?
We don't know. I think that may be the only time we've ever heard that name. But I did like hearing Geordi. I just love when we get a little bit more fleshing out and backstory of a character. And Geordi is one of those characters that didn't get a lot of that in the first season. Remember, we got a lot of Tasha Yar talking about rape gangs and talking about a kitty she had, you know, just these little nuggets that just let you know she had a cat before. Oh, she, you know, went through some crazy shit when she was a kid. She's super tough now. So we didn't know much of that about Geordi other than the fact that he was blind. But now, you know, we get a little bit more of that. He was an ensign under, what was the guy's name? Eric Estrada, Zimbada.
Africa Zimbada.
Yeah. And he clearly has a great relationship still with his old captain, which is great. So he built that USS Victory ship, which was also cool.
That was really cool as well. Those brought me back to my childhood and model building and stuff. I never built anything like that.
Okay, that's crazy.
We used to build little cars and stuff, but you know, you decal it, you paint it, you put it all together, and it's just model building in general is something that's fun. So that was a nice addition too, because you have the historical Navy ship, and then you're on the modern Enterprise ship, and the kind of connections there that they made, even towards the end when Picard was talking about Bristol fashion, and he said it's an
That's
old Navy say.
that's where I felt betrayed. I was like, you see, everybody, as a Frenchman, this is a very it's we know that Picard is not French. Patrick Stewart he's not just British. He is very, very British. And then when he was talking about Bristol, whatever it was, Bristol fashion, I was like, see, he's even showing us just the full depth of his Britishness, of his Englishmanness, by saying, "Oh, you didn't know, Data? Yeah, us old footballers from Bristol and then the Navy." I'm like, you are so British, bro. Don't come on. Everybody knows. But I really did like that scene though, with the model building and showing that Geordi is not just an engineer by trade, but an engineer by passion. That he has like this respect for the history of ships, from wooden boats to metallic spaceships. And he's got a steady hand. It means he's got patience. It means that he has very good hand visor coordination, because that's all stuff that I could not do. So clearly it gives us some insight as to the kind of person that Geordi LaForge is, I thought.
Yeah, it shows us his passion. What else is exposed in this about Geordi is his interest in data. I felt like there was a chemistry there that I saw that was amplified, that wasn't really as much in the foreground as it is in this episode. They become essentially what I feel like is like what we see with the Bashir and O'Brien kind of going into that buddy zone. That's what I felt in this episode, in this moment. I felt like Geordi took a special interest. It was really pleasing him in the inside to prod and poke into the curiosity of Data and where his mind was at, trying to be the all-encompassing expert on Sherlock Holmes and trying to challenge Data. And even Pulaski, I felt, was less abrasive than I've seen her in the past, because a lot of her insults were stinging in the past when she would refer to Data, and in this time, it seemed like she took a little bit of the edge off. She still came with the same kind of criticism of Data when she says, "Yeah, it's like asking a computer not to compute." So she started off kind of in the same temperament that she normally has, but I felt there was an edge taken off, and it wasn't so cutting.
She's still rough on Data. Hopefully we're going to see more of an arc there, because those of us that have seen Data now for a full season, the fans have started to get attached to him, and they start getting a little defensive, saying, "Hey, we're getting a little protective of Data, even though his feelings can't get hurt. We feel like we need to protect him. Like, don't call him that. He has, a personality, and he's real." And actually, that was kind of the theme of this episode. But before we get into that, I want to add to your point about Geordi and Data. I did put that in my notes, that this was the first time. I mean, we've seen Data and Geordi show signs of friendship in the first season. This was the first one where they're not just friends, but they're buddies. Like they're pals, like they hang out, they're bros. Like they're spending their free time together. And this was that first time, right? Like Julian and Miles, like Tom and Harry in Voyager, like Charles Trip Tucker and Archer in Enterprise. It just, or Spock and Kirk or whomever. It was just fun to see. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's a buddy moment, and that's what you got out of this. You got a real sense that they care for each other, that they were, like when Geordi just says, computer end program, started to stomp out of there. And when he stormed out of the first program, it wasn't that he didn't want to participate. It was he wanted to participate in a certain way. And so I felt like, yeah, that's like two buddies arguing over something and finding a way to work it out and finding the solution and going back at it again with optimism and burying the hatchet of whatever argument you have 5 seconds ago, because that's really not what it's about. It's just about our friendship growing. And yeah, I might have had a little, spaz moment, but we figured it out and we worked it out. So those kinds of things show signs to me of a friendship that is both people are trying to be friends, both people are interested in each other's well-being and caring about each other, feelings and how they, respond. So I think that's what stood out to me in this episode, which is why I liked a lot of it. Also, like the fact that it's a period piece that didn't feel too period. It actually blended the modern aspect of them being on the ship well enough for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, let's talk more about this in just a moment. We're going to hit our break, everybody, and we're going to talk about the theme of this episode, too, because we started to talk about that. A lot more to discuss. Everybody stick around, and we'll be right back on the seventh rule, probably.